What is up, guys? It is a Redstone scientist here, and I am back from vacation, and I got a little bit of a different video for you today. This is a challenge to all command blockers out there, because I have got a very, very cool vanilla machine for you that I have been working on, and it works perfectly, except for one major thing. There's an iterative process that goes on that causes an extreme amount of lag. Now, I'm not going to tell you what. Let me turn this down a little bit. I always end up doing that whenever I record, turning it down. It causes extreme lag because it exponentially multiplies armor stands unintentionally. So I'm not going to tell you what the machine is because I don't want that to affect your solution to it. But I cannot figure it out. So let's get right into it. Now, it's going to take a little bit to explain, but bear with me because I really need help with this. So I call it the C equals challenge. Now, I don't know if it will involve using the C equals operator, argument, but it might. It probably will. But it's not that simple. So let me show you. We have got armor stand point. And over here, we have armor stand point. Now, I execute at every point in the world to create an X armor stand next to it. But because I'm executing at every point in the world, I'm executing at both this one and this one. So we end up with two X's. So here we have 1 point, 2 X's, and 1 point. Now the goal is to make it so that when I execute, after I have executed at every point to summon an X, we are only left with 1 X. So let me show you another example of what I mean by that. Let me get rid of all of the armor stands here. So over here we have the next example. So here, when you push this button, it will summon, a point with X's on all 4 sides of it. And the same will happen over here. But if you notice, because it's on all 4 sides, we end up with 2 X's in the middle in the exact same place. Now, if you don't know, I talk about this a little bit in my Mastering Minecraft. The C equals argument, C equals 1 will select the closest entity that meets the requirements. But if the entities are in the exact same place, I don't remember whether it chooses the youngest or the oldest. I don't remember, but it chooses one of those. So it doesn't matter which X is kept, whether it's the first one or the second one. That doesn't matter to me. As long as we end up, this is the scenario we get, and I want to go from here to here. So let me show you another example, because it gets a little bit more complicated than that. Now let's go to this one, where we basically just multiplied that by 4. So we've got 1 points and X's here, 1 here, 1 here, and 1 here. Now what you've got here is the same thing, but we've got 2 X's here, 2 X's here, 2 X's here, and 2 X's here. The rest of the X's are all singles. Now, the reason I'm showing you all these different scenarios is because the solution has to work no matter what configuration it's in. So, as I was saying, this example is amplified a little bit more. It's the same thing, but it's multiplied into an even bigger grid. So let's examine this for a minute. All right, so we have these points that are spaced out. By the way, every armor stand here, all the armor stands are summoned exactly 1 block apart from each other. So we've got points every 2 blocks. Yeah, every 2 blocks. And some of them share X's, some of them don't. The outer X's do not share. But this X here, there are 2 X's there. There are 2 X's here. There are 2 X's here, etc., etc. So that's another example of when this has to work. Let's also make the weather clear. Let's activate every single one of these. Now, for simplicity's sake, I've made these armor stands baby or small, just so you can see it a little better. So here we have, in a 3x3 grid, points, all separated by exactly 1 block. Now, like I said, we're executing at all the points, summoning X's all around it. Now, that doesn't just mean on 4 sides like I was doing over there. It means on all 6 faces of it. So if we push this button here, we end up with all of these X's, okay? Now, it's going to be easier to look at if we make them all invisible and markers. So here we've got a point. And I also named it with more x's so it's easier to see. And now this x right here, there are two x's right there, right? There are two x's right here. And so on and so forth. I mean, it's the same basic thing, but keep bearing with me here because it does get more complicated. So you can see that. But here's the thing. Remember I said this is an iterative process. So the iteration happens when after we have this scenario, we actually kill all of the armor stands named point. Okay, so now we're just left with a big thing of x's, right? Now there are multiple x's there. Now we're going to change the name of all of the x's to point. And now we're going to do this again, where we're going to execute at every point, summon x's. Now, of course, my frames are dropping like crazy. Let's make them invisible again. Come on. Come on. So, as you can see here, because we had... The problem arises because I had multiple x's in one place. Because I had multiple x's in one place, every single one of those x's now summoned twice. So meaning we now have some points that have more than one point within the same block. Hopefully that made sense. So if all goes according to plan, after we do this, let's assume that we only have one of the x's here. So I'm going to do that real quick. I'm going to show you, this is the thing we don't want to end up with. This is the start, and let me show you where we want the end to be. Okay, so this is still not what you want, but I screwed it up because I was doing it by hand. But you can imagine every single one of the x's, there's only one x. Now, if we repeat this process, then that will prevent multiple armor stands from being in the same place. So, long story short, okay, is I want to be able to have an arrangement of points anywhere in the world, right? And I want to be able to summon x's all around them on all 6 faces. Then, I want to make sure that any block that occupies 2 or more x's kills all of the other x's except for 1. So that way, every block only is occupied by 1 armor stand. But here's the catch. It needs to all be done within 1 game tick. So try and take a crack at that if you can. Please ask me any questions you have about this in the comments section. I was going to show you some of the solutions I tried but didn't work. But I'm not going to show you those because I really just want to see what you guys can come up with. But I will tell you that just using the C equals argument doesn't work because if we go to that first example, that is executing twice on every single point. So you'll run into some issues. Just try out your solution before you give it to me. So if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, a comment, or better yet, hit that subscribe button. Make sure to check out the jam-packed description for more science. And before this is solved, unless this is solved, I cannot bring you this awesome thing I'm making. But of course, thanks for watching.